2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports respond to NASCAR's response to their request for an injunction. We also have NASCAR fans upset about the 2025 practice and qualifying schedule, plus this weekend's NASCAR tier rankings heading into Martinsville. Welcome back to Break Hard. I'm Matt. Happy Halloween to everyone out there. It's Halloween, so I think we have to, at least talk about Tyler Reddick's Halloween costume from last year when he was Mario and Luigi with his son, and then they promptly lost him in the playground lot at the racetrack. But it led for a very funny sequence of screenshots when they were talking about it. Also learned that Tyler Reddick uses Mario Kart as a training sim, which is maybe why he just threw it on the outside and didn't lift on Sunday at Homestead. But if you don't celebrate the pagan holiday, well, then just forget everything I said about it before and getting into today's news. Actually, before we do that, Joseph Newgarden also celebrated Halloween by dressing up as Homelander from The Boys TV show on Prime. And if you've seen it, the similarities are concerning. It's not a costume that he put on. He's just Homelander in real life. And I don't know if that's a compliment or not. Getting into today's actual news, though, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports have responded to NASCAR's response for their request for an injunction. So if you follow that, NASCAR responded last week to the request for an injunction that 2311 and Front Row Motorsports had followed. Now they're responding to that response, if that makes any sort of sense. I'm sure it doesn't at all. But if you remember, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports, obviously when all this started, to quote the great Josh Block, "I'm going to sue your ass," is what they said to NASCAR. And they did do that. Now they've also requested an injunction as well. I don't think Josh knows anything about injunctions, thankfully, or else World T-shirts. TikTok would be all about injunctions. What does injunction mean? That's exactly what would happen, and that wouldn't be great for anybody. But they requested an injunction so they can race in 2025 under the current charter agreement starting next season and be able to get the payouts for those charters. NASCAR said, yeah, no, this is a masterclass in contradiction is what NASCAR called it. They said, if you want to race under the charter agreement, sign the charter agreement. Then we don't think that you should get an injunction for this. And NASCAR has said that they are moving ahead with planning for only 32 charters next year, not the 36 like we've had this year. So taking out the 4 that 2311 and Front Row Motorsports currently have. Well, 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsports, they responded. The response basically centers around NASCAR saying, hey, you can race as an open car. You don't need a charter. And 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports both said in their response that, yeah, even if we compete as open cars, we still have to sign the agreement to participate as an open car, which would then take away our right to sue NASCAR. And NASCAR's like, tried to mousetrap you, you caught us in that situation. Actually, I don't think that's what happened there, but it's what 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports said there makes sense, right? So they can't sign that open agreement because, well, that takes away their, ability to, pursue litigation against NASCAR, which they are currently doing. Now, they could just get an injunction to compete as an open car, which doesn't give them that guaranteed starting spot, doesn't give them those bigger payouts that a charter spot would. NASCAR, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports also said that, NASCAR saying that they've already began planning for 32 cars isn't that big of a deal because they have participated at 36 cars this year, and, changing back to that would not be this heavy, lift as maybe NASCAR had indicated in their response to the request for an injunction. The problem with that aspect of it is NASCAR's already started to communicate with teams what these increased payouts will be in 2025 with only having 32 charters and now 8 open spots available. So it's not so much that it's a heavy lift and that it would, be a lot of work to go back to the 36. It's that some of these teams potentially have already started to, forecast and budget for those increased payouts, which is, something that NASCAR would then have to go back and be like, hey, listen, just kidding. You're actually going to, be able to get this and not that we had previously said to you. Now, it remains to be seen how this is going to go. A judge will hear this on Monday, November 4th. Whether or not we get a decision that day on an injunction is we don't know if that's what's going to happen. There is also likely to be an expedited discovery period that comes out of that, but it's going to be very expedited if it does happen. So kind of sit around and wait for next week to come. When it comes to NASCAR fans and their relationship with the TV networks, they love to complain about it like a retiree on a neighborhood Facebook page. There's always something that they have to be critical of. Now, heading into 2025, NASCAR, of course, has a new TV package coming, and part of that is a new package for the practice and qualifying sessions for the NASCAR Cup Series. It will be split amongst two networks. The first half of the year, minus the Daytona 500 and the All-Star race, will be on Prime Video. The second half of the year will be on True TV or Max, the streaming option, if you would like to stream it there. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, pretty easy to understand. A lot like, I don't know, back in like 2008, 2009, 10, 11, 12, when qualifying and practice was split up amongst Speed for the first half of the year when it was on Fox, and then on ESPN2 when it was on ESPN in the second half of the year. Not a wild concept at all. Two different networks having the same thing. That's just exactly what you're getting in, 2025. Fans are going to point to the fact that races are going to be on Fox next year. They're going to be on FS1. They're going to be on Prime. They're going to be on TNT. And they're going to be on NBC and probably USA. 6 different networks. Oh my goodness. Finding 6 channels? We can't do that. Finding 6 channels on your guide? Get out of here. You can't do that right now. There's 1,000 channels out there. You expect them to find 6 channels and at different times of the year? Absolutely preposterous to go forward with that. And a streaming option at that, so really only 5 channels, which makes it even harder because now it goes from 6 to 5. How are we going to find those 5? Now you have to add in the fact that they're going to have Prime Video to watch 5 races as well. And that's just absolutely ludicrous, completely ignoring the fact that Amazon Prime is in more households than FS1 is. And then they want to move the goalposts on you and be like, well, yeah, then I have to pay for it. Well, cable subscription is a paywall as well. So I know people don't like to hear that, and it's a little bit hard for the brains to sometimes comprehend that as well, but having cable is very much a paywall. It's just like having a subscription to Prime or Netflix or Hulu or whatever other platform you want to subscribe to. Yeah, it's not over the air. It's not free, like, if it's on Fox or if it's on network NBC. So yeah, it is kind of a bit of a paywall. It's not anything new at all. Nobody's telling you that you have to buy that to watch those 5 Prime races. But if you want to, it'd be $15 a month. Nothing crazy at all. And it's only 5 races. So you're looking at $30. It should be okay for most. Now, the thing when it comes to practice and qualifying, people are upset about it because, well, it's going to be on Prime. And then it's also going to be on True TV. And then people are constantly like, I don't even know what True TV is, which is, you're liars. You're just liars. And even Bob Pockers got fed up with it in his very funny clapback response to one of these people complaining on the internet. First off, I get it. Not everybody watches basketball, but like True TV has been the home to the first 4 for a few years now. It's also the home to every Impractical Jokers ever. I've never watched an episode of Impractical Jokers, but I know it's popular. I know a lot of people know where it is. And if you remember Court TV, well, that's what this is as well. So saying that you don't know what True TV is, liars. So going forward, it'll be the first half of the year on Prime Video. Pretty easy to realize that. Thursday Night Football's on there. A lot of generic, random Amazon content. A lot of movies where you're like, oh, that's cool that it's on here. Just kidding. You have to rent or buy it. It's going to be on that platform. Then the second half of the year, stay with me here. It's on True TV, which is on cable, or you can stream it on Max. Straightforward, pretty simple. First portion of the Cup season on Fox. Then you have 5 races on Amazon, 5 races on TNT, which you can also stream on Max. And then you have the rest of the season on NBC. Straightforward, simple. And at least we don't have to use the dreaded NBC Sports app anymore for practice and qualifying, which is how we got into this whole situation to begin with. If you have tried to use the NBC Sports app, it's dreadful, terrible. One of the worst things that you could ever do. Oh, you go to watch it? Just kidding, you're not authorized. So you have to unlink your provider and then go back in, relink it, and hope that it works then. Same thing with the Fox Sports app. Now you have 2 dedicated homes to this. You don't have to worry about, is it going to be on FS1, FS2, USA? It's going to be on the Fox Sports app, the NBC Sports app. You don't have to worry about that. It's going to have 2 separate homes, one half of the year, the other half of the year. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. All right, time for this weekend's tier rankings. Who has the best shot of making it to Phoenix as we head into Martinsville? At the top in the Phoenix-bound category, you have Joey Logano, you have Tyler Reddick, 2 guys that sat below the cutoff line, still would technically sit below the cutoff line without their wins, are headed to Phoenix to race for a championship. Next up, in the comfortable category is Christopher Bell. He has a pretty hefty lead, or at least a cushion, going into Martinsville this weekend. If he has a repeat of the spring, though, that's where things could get really dicey and really interesting. But currently, he's comfortable a little bit. Then we have the Hendricks' favorite son. Is it Kyle Larson? Is it William Byron? Obviously, if you dive a little bit into the Reddit conversation about William Byron, you'll have some questions about who the actual favorite son will be over there. But for Kyle Larson for William Byron. It comes down to a separation of 7 points. Will Kyle Larson be able to make up those 7 points? Will William Byron be able to capitalize in a cutoff race? Obviously, last year in this race, he had an absolutely dreadful time. He finished the race just barely squeaking his way into Phoenix. Absolutely exhausted from heat, didn't feel well. Heart rate was at like 189. Bad day for him. Kyle Larson, meanwhile, has had speed here. He's won here in the Gen 7 car, as did William Byron back in the spring, and Hendrick should be bringing a lot of speed to the racetrack this weekend. Then, in the could be a contender, but is Denny Hamlin category, it's still Denny Hamlin as the only person there. And again, tread lightly. Denny Hamlin is really good at Martinsville, but he has not won at Martinsville since 2015. He has not won a fall race at Martinsville since 2010. So as I said, tread cautiously. And then in the Martinsville or bust category, last weekend it was Homestead or bust for Tyler Reddick, because if he didn't win Homestead, I had no faith in him going into Martinsville this weekend. Now, Martinsville or bust. It has to be Chase Elliott or Ryan Blaney. One of those two drivers, the only way for them to get into the playoffs or into the championship race rather, is to win. And right now, Ryan Blaney, obviously defending race winner from last year, has a ton of speed. Chase Elliott, also very good at Martinsville, does not have a Gen 7 win at Martinsville, but was strong back in the spring. Expect both of them to be contenders this weekend. This race is shaping up to be very, very interesting, especially for that final spot. And then if Christopher Bell has any sort of issues, well, this entire race is going to flip upside down and people are going to start getting incredibly aggressive. So let me know in the comments what you think about the 2311 FRM response to NASCAR's response. Fans being upset about practice and qualifying, which that was announced all the way back when the new TV deal was announced, but people got upset about it this week. So let me know your thoughts on that. And then the NASCAR tier rankings for this weekend. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok at BreakHard, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at BreakHardBlog.